past support for workers in their attempts to organize their workplace into a union, form a union, or during a strike. Actively engaged in supporting workers in their struggles on a picket line, during organizing, or a strike. Right. And we didn't give you maybe for a reason. Okay, let's go to something a little more tougher here. We've got this big, and I do want to step back for a minute and say these questions were prepared by the Political Action Committee. This was done in a committee. So hopefully you folks can all understand how arduous that's indeed. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Do like a council?
Yes. And you know what? Well, I'll go into that later. So on the waterfront, we've got a big transportation project called the Alaska Way. Our question is, do you support fully funding the Deepwater Tunnel? Here we go. All right. In the national debate, we're talking about healthcare now. Shift to national debate on healthcare. Typically, to influence these national debates, we come to you folks and ask for resolutions in support. This one will be a resolution in support of a public option for national health care reform. Yes or no? That's an easy one. On the presidential agenda, the agenda that the Democrats are moving forward, health care is right at the top. Labor law reform is right there with it. The Employee Free Choice Act, most of you should all know. To support a resolution in support of the Employee Free Choice Act. There we go. How about it? How about a city? Okay, I'll pitch another one out there. How about a city initiative for living wage jobs? A city initiative for living wage jobs. I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to go by the crowd reaction. There's some system going on. Okay, how about when it comes to building things, project labor agreements? What do you guys think about project labor agreements? You support project labor? There we go. All right. How about, I'm going off script here, really. How about community benefit agreements? How about private school vouchers? It's a trick one now. Okay. How about an extra school?
Well, obviously.
Yeah, I ran out of questions and I was trying to think something smart.
That's okay, we got lots more questions.
That's it for the lightning round. What do you guys think of the lightning round? Position 8 folks to stay up here.
Position 8 stays.
The rest of you guys, go sit down.
And your seats are all delineated in the front row.
Yeah, and Lily will tell you what to do. Tells me what to do. For position 8, we've got a couple of questionnaires that we're going to ask to come up, and again, this was done by committee, so we're pretty sure we know who the questionnaires are going to be. Okay. So we have a questionnaire or two for maritime trades. That would be Brother Vince O'Halloran. Come up here, please. And Adrian from City Unions.
No, just Vince first.
Just Vince first. Well-oiled machine.
Well-oiled machine. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming, city councilmen and women and candidates. So I have been nominated to stand up on behalf of the maritime trades, which isn't affiliated of many of the unions, the building trades, all of us that work in the shipyards, those of us that work on the docks and drive around and work in the hotels at the airport, and basically everybody. This is a maritime city, so we all consider ourselves maritime workers, I hope. Anyway, so I'll go on with a quick question here. Recently, the City of Seattle commissioned a study to analyze the maritime industry in Seattle. Key conclusions of the study include the following. 2,000 workers in 2007. When multiplier effects are considered, the maritime cluster supported employment of 60,327 workers, generating some $10.354 billion in revenue. We don't call our teams the Seahawks and the Mariners for nothing. Under business revenues, the report states, King County maritime businesses generated over $5.6 billion in output in 2007. Under exports in this report, the report states, the maritime cluster exported over $1.2 billion to foreign customers in 2006. About 25% of total production from the private sector industries within the cluster, meaning the businesses within the cluster in the city of Seattle, were exporting to foreign countries. According to the October 2008 Governor's Container Ports and Land Use Work Group report, the Port of Seattle generates 148,000 jobs statewide related to its activities and was the fastest growing port in the United States in the years 2004 and 2005. Our question is,
Good info.
do you support protecting and maintaining the City of Seattle's industrial lands zoning policy in order to sustain and grow our industrial sectors, two key components of our city's family wage base and tax revenue stream?
And before we start taking answers, I'd just like to remind the candidates that unlike the questioner, you have 2 minutes. And there's extra credit if you know what kind of pilots the Seattle pilots were named after. Very good. Extra credit right here. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi, this is David Miller, and I don't think I'm going to need 2 minutes to answer this question. I strongly believe that we need to preserve our industrial lands. It is the key to billions, as you have heard, the billions and billions of dollars in revenue and jobs for our economy. It's something that I have said in front of business groups that would rather have me not said that, in front of developer groups that would rather have me not said that. But I'm willing to stand up for those. The decisions that we made in December 2007 as a council, with the support of labor, was the right decision. Now, all you know that this is coming back up in front of council because that rule had a sunset. If you put me on council, I'm going to work very closely with you to make sure that we preserve our industrial lands because they are absolutely critical for our city now and in the future. And I'm David Miller. Did I say that?
Hi, my name is Bobby Forge, of course, running for position 8. And I'll start out first by answering. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Bobby Forge, and yes, I will support just a few things about myself. When I first entered this race only about 8 weeks ago, my press release said jobs advocate enters race. The reason I entered this race was because I didn't hear the discussion. Any talk about the economy and about jobs. We're in the worst economic situation in a generation. And I thought it was imperative to bring that voice for jobs. Now, my father was a shipfitter. He worked in the shipyards for 30 years, so I understand that. I came to the city of Seattle 22 years ago and worked as a laborer in Local 1239. So I understand that. I understand what a living wage job means to a community, what it means to a city and its vibrancy. So as the question comes, there's no doubt about it. This is the platform. This is the issue. And I'm glad to see others starting to pivot to it because it's very important.
My highest priority from day one has been to rebuild the jobs for our economy. And the industrial land space and the waterfront and our working waterfront are the central part of that living wage job structure that we have. There's one other component that Vince didn't talk about that's really important, and it's that the maritime businesses that have $10 billion impact on our economy actually place very little burden on